As Mark Twain said, faith is believing what you know ain't so. This is Freethought Radio.
And welcome back to Freethought Radio. I'm Dan Barker.
I'm Laurie Gaylor. So they say that repetition sells, and religions certainly believe that. At this time of year, we hear over and over and over the nativity story, and we're told to keep Christ in Christmas. That's why we freethinkers need to repeat over and over what the real meaning of the season is, and remind not just Christians, but ourselves and the public about how many of the customs and even some of the doctrine associated with this time of year spring from ancient celebrations and beliefs surrounding the shortest and darkest day of the year. So we're going to play a video that we usually play once a year because we all need this reminder that Christmas is a relic of sun worship and pagan rituals around the rebirth of the sun, marked by the winter solstice. Greetings of the winter solstice. It's away with the manger and in with the solstice.
And 'tis the season for many state church violations. We'll be talking about some of the perennial controversies our state church watchdog deals with during the month of December. But before that, we want to talk about the real reason for the season.
And that is the winter solstice, not Christmas. The Christians stole Christmas. Dan, we don't mind sharing the season with them, but we don't like this pretense that it's the birthday of Jesus. It's the birthday of the unconquered sun, Dies Natalis Invicti Solis. Christmas is a relic of sun worship. We've been celebrating the winter solstice, this natural holiday, long before Christians crashed the party. In celebrating the winter solstice, we actually celebrate reality.
So let's talk about that reality. The winter solstice occurs every December 21st or 22nd, and in the northern hemisphere is more commonly known as the first day of winter. It's the shortest, darkest day of the year, and is actually an astronomical event. The word solstice comes from the Latin for sun, sol, and the ending of that word, stis, in Latin means stand. At the winter solstice, the sun appears to stand still for a day or two in its apparent annual drift along the horizon. The winter solstice is the moment when the sun appears at its most extreme southernmost position, creating the year's longest night. And then the sun appears to turn back around, prompting the celebration of the return of the sun and the start of the astronomical new year.
So, the winter solstice heralds the symbolic rebirth of the sun, the lengthening of the days, and the natural new year. And that's why, for millennia, our ancestors in the Northern Hemisphere have greeted this seasonal event with festivals of light, gift exchanges, and social gatherings. The evergreens, displayed now, as in centuries past, flourish when all else seems dead and are symbols, as is the returning sun, of enduring life. For almost all of our festivals, there were corresponding pagan festivals tied to natural events.
Most Christians celebrating Christmas don't seem to realize they're actually engaging in pagan revelry.
So Dan, how did this very natural event of the winter solstice turn into a Christian celebration of the supposed miraculous birth of the Christian deity?
Well, that's an interesting bit of history. First, you might not realize that nothing in the New Testament refers to the nativity as occurring in wintertime. In fact, the New Testament reference to shepherds watching their flocks at night means that Jesus would have likely been born in the early spring, or maybe in the fall. The word Christmas doesn't appear in the New Testament. When Christianity gradually took over, people didn't want to give up their local pagan celebrations. Christianity needed to supplant those competing pagan beliefs. So it was kind of a case of, if you can't beat them, join them. The Christian church adopted earlier pagan dates and customs, including placing the supposed birth of its founder at the time of this pivotal festival.
So you could look at it as a pretty shrewd marketing ploy, couldn't you? To transfer the devotion of the heathen from the sun, S-U-N, to the Christian sun, S-O-N. Christianity, of course, wasn't the only religion to do this or to claim December 25th as the date that their god was supposedly born. Other such solstice sun gods of the past include Marduk, Osiris, Horus, Isis, Mithras, Saturn, Sol, Apollo, and Serapis.
And Huitzilopochtli in Mexico.
So I'm glad you got to pronounce that one.
Speaking of the sun, the best known winter solstice event was the Roman festival of Saturnalia, which took place for a full week, starting many centuries before Christianity. Saturnalia celebrations featured role reversals for masters and slaves, feasts, drinking, bonfires, family parties, gift giving, and decorating with evergreens and candles.
And that sounds very familiar. And what today is known as the Christmas tree, of course, had pagan roots. The early Germanic peoples, Celts and Druids, were among many ancient so-called heathens who engaged in various forms of tree worship. Many Northern Europeans used evergreens as winter decorations for these festivals. The Yule log we have on our set today is a vestige of the Vikings.
The obvious pagan origins of the Christmas revelry and customs were why the Puritans outlawed any observance of December 25th other than a church service. The Old Testament warns people not to engage in such idolatry. Jeremiah 10, verses 2 through 5 warns, "Learn not the way of the heathen. Their customs are vain. For one cuts a tree out of the forest. They deck it with silver and with gold." This biblical admonition notwithstanding, most Christians today do put up Christmas trees without realizing they are continuing an ancient pre-Christian pagan tradition.
And what is now the ubiquitous American practice of placing a decorated tree in one's home was popularized here and in England belatedly, only in the 19th century, by Germans such as Queen Victoria's husband.
So in celebrating the winter solstice, we're celebrating a natural event, something that belongs to and affects everyone in the Northern Hemisphere. The solstice season belongs to us all and should unite us, regardless of our religion or views on religion. I'm Dan Barker with Laurie, Gaylor, and when we come back, we're going to see a brief field trip to explain the legalities of religious displays and the displays that counter them at this time of the year. And we'll play a little more solstice music.
If you want to support the Freedom from Religion Foundation, check out our fun and irreverent merch. We've got mugs, lots of t-shirts, lots of great bumper stickers, pins, bookmarks, and stickers. We also have tote bags and a huge variety of secular books. You can find all this and more at ffrf.org/shop.
Beware of dogma. This is Freethought Radio.
Welcome back. I'm Laurie, Gaylor.
And I'm Dan Barker. And we're continuing to watch our annual myth-dispelling examination of the winter solstice, showing why this natural holiday is the real reason for the season.
Today on Freethought Matters, we're taking a look at the real reason for the season, the winter solstice, whose festivities celebrating winter, enduring life, and the natural new year far preceded Christianity.
And we've promised to take a look not at that so-called war against Christmas, but that war against the constitutional separation of church and state in December. Unfortunately, there are all too many First Amendment violations, with various governments promoting religion in December, particularly one religion's teachings. We asked Patrick Elliott, who is FFRF's senior counsel and one of FFRF's 9 constitutional attorneys, about what the courts have said about nativity scenes and menorahs on public property.
We received many reports in December at the Freedom from Religion Foundation about religious displays on government property, in government buildings, and in city parks. Let's take a look at what the courts have said about these displays. The first case was Lynch versus Donnelly. There, the city of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, included a nativity scene as part of an overall elaborate Christmas display on the grounds of a private park. The city's display included a depiction of Santa, reindeer, and other figurines in addition to the nativity scene. In a 5-4 ruling, the Supreme Court held that the city's display did not violate the Establishment Clause. Several years later, however, the court heard another case involving holiday displays. In County of Allegheny versus ACLU, the Supreme Court considered whether 2 recurring holiday displays on government property were constitutional. The first display consisted of a creche, which was prominently displayed on the grand staircase of the courthouse. The second display, located outside of the city-county building, included a menorah, a Christmas tree, and a sign celebrating the holiday season. The court held that while the menorah display with the Christmas tree and sign was constitutional, it ruled that the nativity scene inside the courthouse was unconstitutional. When analyzing holiday displays, courts will look at the physical setting, the particular symbols used, and whether the overall message endorses religion. Let's take a look at a complaint that FFRF successfully resolved regarding nativity display. We'll head about 40 miles south of Madison to the small town of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Elkhorn is a town of about 10,000 people. In December, the town's merchants deploy their holiday decorations. The town even calls itself the Christmas card town. Courts have allowed displays on government property that are secular, such as holiday decorations, including something like a Santa's workshop behind me here, Christmas lights, and those types of displays. What's not permitted would be a government's focus on a purely religious symbol, such as a menorah or a nativity scene as the sole focus of a display. And it was a nativity scene in Elkhorn that caught the attention of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. In 2014, FFRF contacted local government leaders about a nativity scene on the government square. Ultimately, the county agreed to move the nativity display here on government property to across the street at St. Patrick's Catholic Church. This is the creche that was on government property. Today, it's on private property. You'll see we're not able to peek inside because it's got frost on this cold Wisconsin day. But trust us, it's a typical nativity scene with Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and Christmas figurines. So if you're the government, you can put up Frosty and his family anywhere you want. But when it comes to religious displays, leave those to your local churches.
So the law on nativity scenes and menorahs on public property can be a bit confusing. But there is one area of the law that is clear, and that is, if the government creates a public forum for displays in December, it can't discriminate. We at the Freedom from Religion Foundation have successfully sued and won in several instances when nativity scenes or angels were permitted in a public park or capitol, but our signs or displays were censored.
The Freedom from Religion Foundation and our 40,000 members around the country are very busy making sure that our point of view is also represented. When local or state governments declare there's a public forum in December, FFRF likes to make sure that if religion is displayed, then the views of the non-religious are also present. We've been ensuring our point of view is represented at the Wisconsin State Capitol for more than 30 years.
It's December in Wisconsin, which means it's time for the holiday tree in the state capitol. For many years, religious groups have been allowed to put up seasonal displays in the rotunda. In that same spirit, the Freedom from Religion Foundation exercises their right to free expression during this season of the winter solstice. Laurie Gaylor is the group's co-president.
And this is the 22nd year that the Freedom from Religion Foundation has put up our sign saying there are no gods, there's only the natural world. This was composed as an equal time protest of religion in the state capitol here in Wisconsin. And it says, at the season of the winter solstice may reason prevail. There are no gods, no devils, no angels, no heaven or hell. There is only our natural world. Religion is but myth and superstition that hardens hearts and enslaves minds. There's been a lot of problems with it over the years where it's been stolen or had acid thrown on it, but in recent years it's not been molested. And then we recently joined that sign with our Bill of Rights nativity. And this is a very charming and whimsical homage to the Bill of Rights, which was adopted on December 15th, 1791. So it's the anniversary of the Bill of Rights in the month of December. And we think it's appropriate to honor the Bill of Rights in December, whereas it's not appropriate to have religion at the seat of our state government. And this sign depicts some of the founding fathers and the Statue of Liberty honoring the Bill of Rights, which is depicted in a creche. And this has been somewhat controversial. It was at the state capitol in Texas, and Governor Abbott censored it, even though he had a permit. And we just won a lawsuit where a federal judge said he may not censor it, but Governor Abbott has appealed that. We have this in several other state capitals. It's on courthouse lawns. And we make this Bill of Rights nativity available to secular activists who want to counter religion at so-called public forums on government property in the month of December. We don't think religion or irreligion belongs in governmental property. It's divisive. But if there's going to be religion on government property, there has to be room at the inn for dissenting points of view.
All over the nation, we're seeing non-believers, atheists, and agnostics erect banners and other displays, some tongue-in-cheek, such as the flying spaghetti monster or Festivus poles, on government property where Christian manger scenes, angels, or other religious displays are put up in December. Freethinkers are putting up banners, our Bill of Rights nativity, and other signs in county parks, at city halls, in county courthouses, and in state capitals all around the nation.
The nones, N-O-N-E-S, meaning atheists, agnostics, or nothing in particular, today represent almost a third of the U.S. adult population. And some studies contend that almost 50% of Gen Z say they have no religious identification. That's a lot of Americans to exclude when government impermissibly takes sides over religion. The public square belongs to all of us, and if government is going to create a forum for religion, there must be room at the inn for the rest of us, including the non-religious views.
In 1891, the 19th century's most famous infidel, Robert Greene Ingersoll, wrote a Christmas sermon published in the Evening Telegram that year on December 19th.
Ingersoll wrote that the good part of Christmas is not always Christian. It is generally pagan, that is to say, human, natural. Long before Christ was born, the sun god triumphed over the powers of darkness. About the time that we call Christmas, the days begin perceptibly to lengthen. Our barbarian ancestors were worshipers of the sun, and they celebrated his victory over the hosts of night. Such a festival was natural and beautiful. The most natural of all religions is the worship of the sun. Christianity adopted this festival. Robert Ingersoll concluded his piece saying, "It borrowed from the pagans the best it has."
The customs of this time of year endure because they're pleasant. We all enjoy hearing from family and friends. We enjoy gathering, feasting, singing. Gifts, as freethinker Robert Ingersoll once remarked, are evidence of friendship, of remembrance, of love. We non-believers are quite willing to celebrate the fun parts of anybody's holidays. We just want to be spared the schmaltz, the superstition, and the state church entanglements. Christians often borrowed from secular music, such as the ballad Greensleeves, which became the Christmas hymn, What Child Is This? So Dan has turned the tables and borrowed from a Christmas hymn, O Little Town of Bethlehem, and turned it into a song called Solstice Tribute, honoring the real reason for the season. Here's a recording of Dan singing Solstice Tribute. Here's Dan.
O shining star of solstice time, Your radiant hours are few. You turn and strike the New Year's chime. We owe our lives to you. These darkest days of winter, we miss your warming rays. But every year this hemisphere returns to brighter days. Since olden days the human race has feared your warmth would die. The evergreen is ever seen as hope we will survive. Oh, ancient drums, stop beating and superstitions fall. It's time for reason's greetings, for peace, goodwill to all.
And that's our show for today. We hope you've enjoyed our Winter Solstice special. If you're a member of FFRF, thank you. You're the reason FFRF can accomplish what it does. If you're not a member, please join today. It is deductible for income tax purposes. Go to ffrf.org/join or ffrf.org/donate. Your membership helps us speak with a more powerful voice as a National Freethought Association and State Church watchdog.